The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests today are no strangers to this show. Lori Wilder, who's the Director of Education, and of course, Jane Thomson, who is the Chair of the Board of Education.
Hello.
Now, Jane, how much longer are you going to be Chair of Board of Education? I know it's a yearly election, is it?
It's a yearly election, yes.
So you've got a little more time left yet.
Yeah, our election will be in November.
Ah, okay.
For the for the chair, the new chair and vice chair and the committees.
Yeah. It's very similar to municipal politics that in that way that there is a rollover annually for most positions. So that's good. I'm sure you're looking forward to summer vacation.
It is exciting to think it's coming. Yes.
And Lori, same for you. You can at least the summer is the summer, and it's traditionally in the education field a time for catch up, a time for refreshment.
Absolutely. I'm sure the students and staff are looking forward to it. It's once the warm weather hits, we all get that summer itch and get looking towards the summer. So it will be here before we know it, but we want to ensure too our students are still challenged and educated right till the very end.
Absolutely. And I don't care how much cheering I hear from the field at OSDSS. It's still education, right?
It sure is, David.
Yes, I happen to live as I've said before, close to OSDSS, and Hillcrest. So it's no, I hear less from Hillcrest, but certainly I hear OSDSS, and they are very enthusiastic, and becoming more enthusiastic as the weather grows warmer. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But it's been a very. Let's start off with some of that at the highest level, because you've got a new Minister of Education that you have to get used to. And that's Todd Smith. Mr. Lecce has been moved over to the energy and electrical energy portfolio. So you've got you have a new minister to break in, right?
Mm-hmm, we sure do. And so far, we haven't had the opportunity to hear from him. So there will be lots of learning for both of us on both sides to know his priorities. And there's been lots of new that's been introduced in the last little while. So I would assume we're on the same course, but we'll see as time goes on.
Well, I have to say the teachers' unions were quite receptive to the change, with the usual sort of goodbye, good riddance to the former minister. But hey, new minister, new day, lots of opportunities.
The new, if I may add, the new minister's wife is vice principal in another board in the province. And so I think what I had read in one of the media releases, how the unions were hopeful that might have some kind of connection with education. Just, as you live with somebody who's in the education field, you have a good understanding of what goes on.
And speaking to someone who also is married to someone in the healthcare profession, yes, that's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. You can't help but have some both conversation, but also understanding of the issues from a slightly different perspective. So exactly. I hope that will also be the true of Mr. Smith as well.
Yes.
So now that has happened, at the same time, Mr. Lecce has left a very interesting legacy, because there have been changes even within the last few weeks to the curriculum, changes to diploma requirements. Lori, what are those all about? What's changed? What are some of those changes that were announced?
Well, it is interesting that when you were referencing him leaving, I thought, yes, but has left with a lot of changes, just as you said, David. So I will hit some of the highlights on that, because it does have an impact on our students. One of the introductions that has been made is that students in grade 10 will have to complete a financial literacy graduation requirement. So that's brand new. So that will be introduced to them when they're taking grade 10 math. And it's, as I understand it, we've not seen anything yet, but as I understand it, it will be a module that will be part of the grade 10 curriculum. And students will have multiple opportunities to attempt to pass this graduation requirement. They have to achieve at least a 70 to get the financial literacy component of that. So that is one component, and it's what they're indicating it's going to be. They want students to be able to demonstrate understanding how to create and managing a budget, how to save for a home and other assets, understand interest rates, things that haven't maybe been as explicit in the curriculum, although there are different curriculums that have hit on those aspects before, but this will be very concentrated. So that's one brand new introduction. Another one is, and again, none of these have really been fleshed out. It's just the concepts that were presented. So this one is that they're going to be reintroducing modernized home economics education. So, or life skills, they're calling it. So we've heard things like healthy cooking, first aid, consumer habits, responsible consumer habits. So we'll see if that will be a compulsory credit or what that will look like. So we don't have any information other than what I've just shared. Something too that's not really new, but it had been in play and then the ministry had taken it away, but it's around math standards for educators. So all of our new educators, so students graduating from Teachers College will have to pass a math proficiency test. So that is just to ensure they have the math knowledge necessary to support students in their math instruction. And then the last introduction, they're going to be introducing career coaches. So they've made quite a large financial investment in that. And so it's a bit of an overhaul of our guidance education curriculum and what's happening. So they will be probably implemented into the existing career studies course in grade 10. And these will be people already in the field. So they will get a bank of people that would be eligible to come in, particularly around the science, technology, and math areas. That's where they're hoping to grow students' understanding. They've made some other changes just around the Ontario Secondary School Diploma. There used to be 3 kind of bands where you had to have compulsory credits. Now they've moved it down to just 1. So it gives more flexibility for students in that regard. So lots of new things that will be introduced. Some of this isn't coming into play until September 2025. So we have some time to prepare for that.
Well, you saw my reaction to the home ec one course reintroduction. I'm long in the tooth enough to remember home economics in both public school and high school, and there were just as there were, I think, 5 labs for technology in the high school I attended. There were 2 home ec rooms or home ec labs, and will the schools be required to do some adaptation, and will there be new conversion to home ec home ec, let's call it home ec for what it is, home ec labs for practical skills training? Oh, we've lost your audio, Lori. Nope, we still have lost your audio.
Oh,
there we go.
You're back. You're back.
At this point, we are not aware that any changes would be required. All of our, currently our secondary schools would have space, kitchen kind of facilities that could honor that. When they talk about it being modernized, my thoughts are that it may not really be like the old home economics, which was the sewing and the cooking. So that maybe just a regular classroom would suffice, but we really are looking forward to seeing what it's going to look like. Minister Lecce at the time did talk about doing some consultation on this and going out to see what people want to see. So I think in this next year, there'll be more information coming.
To be sure. And I know, for example, that the the various culinary courses that are offered. OYAP is a good example. That's a very specific module for cooking, but this I trust would be a little more broad in its base.
Yes, I would assume so. If I could just say, the Level 1 Cook program that we have in connection with Georgian College has been so fantastic. It's part of a special high skills major program. The students just had their graduation, and I have over the years had the opportunity to taste some of the food they make. It's just fabulous, and what they learn for future careers if they choose to go that way is just phenomenal.
Yes, I happen to know one of the teachers in that course, and yes, they're both taught by very good staff, but they also produce an excellent product, and they can basically these days walk into a job, and I don't mean at McDonald's.
Oh, exactly. No, I know, and I know that same person, and what a great teacher for them to have. Right.
But there are other changes that are sort of a legacy of Minister Lecce, one of which is de-streaming. Where are we at with that?
So it's interesting you asked that question, because de-streaming has been in play now. I think we're going to be entering in September our third year. And there was funding that was attached to it originally to support coaches, to help teachers understand what it might look like in the classroom. But any de-streaming funding that the ministry had provided has been removed. So that was a surprise to us, because I think for all boards across the province, that was a bit of a hit on their budgets. So we are moving along, and grade 9 is completely de-streamed. Grade 10, they haven't moved yet to do anything with grade 10, the ministry. So we had anticipated that might be coming, but it's not the case anymore. So I do see good rationale for it to happen, just as students have been in de-streamed essentially their whole elementary education. And then when they enter grade 9, it's an opportunity for them to just acclimatize to grade 9. I mean, there's a lot of social pressures at the time. Transitions are hard. So I think it's a good thing to get them settled. And just mature a bit to then decide, okay, what is it going to look like in my career? What do I want to do? What courses do I need? And then in grade 10, they can be more specific in their choices.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's certainly, I've heard it said that Minister Lecce was the longest serving Minister of Education we've had for many years. And I suspect his legacy will be significant. We just spent the last 15 minutes talking about it. So, I think that it's fair to say he will have a significant legacy in the portfolio.
Yes, I would tend to agree. He, in terms of the unions too, like all the agreements have been negotiated. So that's a feather in his cap for sure. I know that the unions aren't supportive of how some things went down in that regard, but strikes were averted this last time. So that's a legacy too. So I understand that maybe the choice for Lecce of energy has something to do with just the way he behaved as a Minister of Education, and that those skills and expertise might help in his energy portfolio.
Well, that's another conversation I'd love to have with fires, but I'm not talking to Rick until the fall. We may be into an election by then, but that may not come till the spring either. Who knows?
Fair enough.
It's going, but it will be interesting to see. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a bit about the budget, because we're starting with the high level stuff. Jane, that's been what you and the trustees have had to work on mostly. You're presented with the information. What did the budget look like for 24-25?
Well, and when you say for the trustees to work on, I have to give credit to our financial staff for the work that they've done on it. There was again another change that the ministry put forward it was our grants for student needs, and it changed to core funding. So our staff, it came late, and they had to go through that whole funding announcement and new funding structure to align the what used to be to what is now and where it fits. So for them to bring a balanced budget forward for us. But they've brought us balanced budget forward. We're very excited, and it's in the amount of $277 million. So it's a lot of money that we're dealing with. So that will come to the Board of Trustees for final approval in June next week.
And that is a lot of money. Yeah, when you compare it across Grey Bruce and even the county, it's certainly one of the larger, if not the largest, single budgets in services, in community services that we have. To have it in three figures is a significant amount of money.
It sure is.
I can see it weighs heavily on your shoulders.
Well, it's a big responsibility. We're lucky to be in a position that we are in Bluewater. Some boards, if you're reading provincial news, are really struggling and going into this with a deficit budget. And we are pleased to be in the position that we're in, to be doing this with some reserve dollars to give us some cushion if with the uncertainties that are always there for us to navigate as we move forward. So I'm proud of where we sit.
Absolutely. When you hear the news coming out of Toronto with their infrastructure, with the board with its huge, massive infrastructure deficit, and a myriad of other issues, it sure does kind of put in perspective where we are here in Bluewater.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, if I may add, some tough decisions were made during the accommodation reviews, and they were very difficult decisions for communities. We know that, but those have really supported where we are in our space usage of our schools. I mean, we're up over 90% now, whereas before it was very low, and that really helps with the budget. And trustees made those tough decisions then. So I would say, provincially, we are one of the boards that's in the best position, one of the better positions, because boards are really struggling. So kudos to the trustees for doing that.
And I think, I know hindsight is always 2020, but my own children went to both Strathcona and Bayview, and both of those were in the accommodation reviews were closed and sold. And Strathcona is now apartments, and I know people who live there, and they're quite happy with the apartments. And then Bayview is now the addiction and recovery, the wellness and recovery center for Bright Shores Health. And that's both are really good examples of refurbishing school buildings that were valuable properties, but have got a second life.
Absolutely. Same with Sydenham. Now the Sydenham Community School. My children too went there and to Strath. So it's nice to see that they are being used for supporting the community so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is life after school, isn't there? Which reminds me, there was I was teasing the warden recently about this, that he got a lovely little present from Minister Lecce recently, $28 million for a new school in Dundalk. And we have talked about that at length in previous shows, because did I see correctly, there's 140% occupancy rate at High Point School? Something ridiculous like that.
There are a lot of portables at that school. The growth in that community is phenomenal. Jane and I were actually fortunate enough to go to the opening. Minister Lecce did come to the opening, and MPP Rick Byers was there. But it was lovely to see the community. Like, we had the school council parents that were there as well. They were absolutely thrilled. So this is a growth school, which is different than a replacement school. So the existing two schools will stay. And this is a third school that will be added to the community of Dundalk, just because the growth has been so phenomenal down there.
One of the things the warden said, which I thought was rather unique, is that you referred to it as a growth school, Laurie. Mm-hmm. He said that in the past that the ministry has funded schools to X capacity, but there is room for growth. There are additional spaces in the school that will be built into it. Is that correct?
Well, when we put our proposal in, we were only putting it in for the number of students. Like generally, that's how they fund it, the number of students that are currently there. So we do have a lot of portables in these. So the idea would be that the overflow from the two schools would go to that school. There shouldn't be too many more spaces, although we know the growth will be coming. Yeah, it's a bit of a dilemma there, and also a dilemma because we'll have to probably do some boundary shifts. So students that maybe have gone to High Point historically, well now then if we shift the boundary, we'll be going to the new school. We'll have to name it. We'll have to staff it. So it's, we had a meeting yesterday and we were just talking about some of the nuances around that. I mean, it's a little ways out, but we're saying how it's new for us to have a girls' school approved.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, and you'll be hiring new staff, and this is what, 2-3 years completion?
Yes.
Yeah, but even still, that's in the scheme of things. We've been talking longer than that about education matters. So, and I remember when the new Meaford School wasn't even a vision in people's eye because it was still sort of we need it, but. And now we've got it, and it's open. So this, you'll be looking at more staff. You'll be looking at maybe changing the boundaries and busing, I'm presuming, because of just the way things usually align, and busing boundaries change as well. Do you have a site selected yet?
Well, that's all still in discussion and in closed session. The trustees have been discussing that in closed session. I know that one of the things the ministry likes to see when they approve projects is shovel-ready property available for schools to build on, because often that's the delay. A purchase has not been done at this point in time, but there is a property of interest.
One of the things I remember from the past is that developers would set aside so many or certain properties for the provision of a school or for a community center or whatever. Does that still happen today, or is that something that gets negotiated later or in the process?
They do have to honor if say a board of education asked a developer to set some aside, they negotiate, but they have to honor that. So yes, you are certainly on the right track on that. I'm not sure if a developer actually sets aside so many acres every time they develop for a school, but there are conversations that occur. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it would probably people would be bear watching both the Board of Education agendas or the show or the recordings, which are available on the Bluewater Board website or the Southgate Municipal website, because that will require municipal approval as well. And you can be quite sure that there'll be a full plan of building, planning process that'll go along with that too.
It was lovely too to see, I didn't mention earlier, but it was lovely when Jane and I were there to see the municipal councillors that were also there, and very happy to hear the news. So they have been extremely supportive partners as we've been pursuing this proposal with the ministry.
Indeed, and when you are building, and I'm not kidding, hundreds of homes in a year, it's absolutely essential. So we'll I expect we'll be talking about new schools and new subdivisions probably next year or two. Not done, maybe down in Southgate, I don't know, but certainly in other parts of Grey Bruce. This is certainly something kind of new, isn't it? We haven't really talked about a lot of this, have we, in the past?
No, although we've had some, as you've mentioned, we've had some successful builds that have occurred here, Georgian Bay area, Hanover. I mean, Jane, how long ago was PSDS? I guess time does go, doesn't it? How long ago?
Yeah, quite a while now. Yeah.
It still new when I go there.
And there's schools over on the coast that need work or will be replaced or will be expanded. Kincardine. Yes,
absolutely. We have approval for that.
Yes.
For Kincardine, we put in proposals as well for Port Elgin area. That at this point in time with the capital priorities proposals that we submitted, that one wasn't approved, but we hope that it will be in the future, and even Meaford for the elementary.
Yeah. Does the Board of Education provide you with a white hard hat, Jane?
Yes, actually, when we visit these sites, there is a hard hat there.
So okay, well that's good because the white hard hats are the boss. And you get one, Lori, too. So don't. Well, let's move on to I see on the list of stuff that Jamie provided. Take your MPP to school day. I would think that you've probably had a lot of experience with that over the last month or so.
Well, we took Rick Byers to school. He went to Owen Sound District School, and we toured the tech wing and the high skills majors. Some of the high skills majors programs were outlined to him. It was an excellent day. The tech programs at OS are amazing, and the teachers, the students, the enthusiasm was so great all the way through. So it was a lovely opportunity to showcase what happens within the school there.
Good. Well, isn't there also another skills program out at Grey Roots that is is that just completing, or will it be starting in the fall?
So that is a program that we've actually had in existence for a long time. It's the agricultural program. It was originally in Chesley, attached to the Chesley secondary school at the time, which became elementary. So we thought we would offer it at the Grey Roots Museum because it's more central for students, so we could attract more students to the program. So they just had an open house, a relocation open house, if you will. And both Jane and I had the pleasure of being there. And it is honestly, it's just the best hands-on program. We got to see goats and a calf and ducks and pigs, and they're growing things. Oh, yes, chickens. And again, these students were so absolutely engaged, and they would speak to us as we toured the facility. It's just a wonderful program for students. So we already know that our enrollment has grown for next year. It's only offered in one semester of a year. So we're up to, I think, 15 students. So that's a really good enrollment that we have. And what a great location for it. It was a pilot this year. So I'm not sure what it's being called next year, but we're still there next year, which is a very good thing. The students do their lessons in the old schoolhouse. Mm-hmm. So it's a great program. We were the first in the province to offer a specialist high skills major in agriculture. I'm glad it's still continuing.
And I'm quite sure the retired teachers would be delighted to know that the school that they built is being used for education again. I happen to know a few of them, and I'm sure I know they'd be just tickled to know that that the schoolhouse, which was built by that organization, really is being used again. Oh, did they learn how to run the steam tractor?
Oh, not that I know of. Maybe that would be part of it.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah, I know. You got to learn first. You got to learn how to build a good fire.
Yeah.
And it is tricky to run, but I'm sure I know the guy who does run it, so I'm sure he'd be glad to teach them. But we've got to go to break now because, well, some people want to get in on the message, so we'll let them. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking, and we'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Sports is life. It's clear cut. Everything's out in the open. There's nowhere to hide. I had to prove myself. more than anyone else.
You must be so proud of your son. He's gonna go pro. The sky's the limit.
為難腳硬眼。
There's always a winner and a loser.
You cannot reach the sky in broken cleats.
Of course, I always want to be the winner. And I did reach the sky.
Norman Kwong, the first Chinese-Canadian professional football player, still holds records to this day. He retired from the sport in 1960 and later became Lieutenant Governor of Alberta.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking. Politically Speaking is interviews with your politicians on Rogers TV. 7 o'clock, Thursday evening. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV.
Stand by 5. Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests today are Jane Thomson and Lori Wilder, and they are both part of the Bluewater District Board of Education. Jane is, of course, the chair of the board, and Lori is the director of education. So we've been talking about all the changes that have been happening in the education system, and just some of the good things that have been happening in our Bluewater District Board. So it's a good thing that is happening here. But let's move along a little bit, because I heard some really positive support for the Rainbow Student Conference. A parent whom I happen to know who has a child who was sometimes on the margins just said they had so much fun and they blossomed at this event. What was this all about?
I was fortunate to be able to attend the first bit of it in the morning. And we had students from across the district come from grade 7 and up all the way to grade 12. And so it was just a time for those students to come together. We had over 100 students actually, and it was kind of a day of support among peers with music, arts and crafts, positive messaging, and it was really supporting students who identifies in the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. And so the students, just to actually have an opportunity to be together with all of the students who identify as they do is a really great thing, show that they're supported. We had Kit Bolter as kind of the MC for the day, and Kit brought just so much energy and enthusiasm. And when I was there, the students were singing along. We also had Coco Love Alcorn. So she's well known in this community for sure. She provided some musical workshops for the students. So even the time that I was there, she had maybe, as an introduction only, probably 15 minutes with the students, and she had come with a prepared song for that day with the students. And so they could go back and forth and sing parts of the song with her. It was fabulous. And we also had Jay Minomi, an Indigenous transgender person who came deep ties to the arts community and an advocate for the BIPOC community, which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So it was just, what we were saying is, I see the light inside of you, I see you for you, and that's what we honored. For us in Bluewater, diversity, equity, inclusion is really, really important for our students, and we do honor that. Many of these students are part of their school GSAs, which is Gender Sexuality Alliance groups, which also has allies in it. So it was just a time for them to come together and see other students across the board. Really a wonderful, wonderful day.
Well, that's certainly what I heard anecdotally. So, kudos to the board for doing this kind of event. It's, I think back to my peers in my school days who were not free to be themselves.
Yes.
Those of us who today would be called allies were just we were just close friends, and that was it. And it was, we did our best to support each other, and well, it was interesting times. It was a different time, different world. But good to see. Yeah.
And we've been hosting these forums, David, for a few years now. This is the first year. It was called Rainbow. Previously we called them the GSA Student Forum. So we've been having them for quite some time, just with different presenters and different workshops. And always very successful with the students leaving with big smiles on their face. And we send home some swag. They get a Bluewater bag and things like that too, which is good for them.
And you also have an Indigenous student forum as well. What's that all about?
We've been having a lot of student forums, and I'm very pleased to say so, because why are we here? We're here for our students. So similarly, this one was for students who identify as Indigenous. So we had over 100 self-identifying Indigenous students in grades 7 to 12, and we're so fortunate to have the Bluewater Outdoor Education Center up near Wyerton. So we used that facility for this day, and it was really a way for them to learn in nature. So they were able to choose from some workshops. They could choose 2 workshops, including outdoor activities, bannock making, hide tanning, fire making, indoor, it'd be beadwork and craft workshops. And so the students, again, just had a fabulous time. We also invited students from Kikindoskamig. So that is the elementary school that is up at the Chippewas of Nawash unceded. So they have their own school. So they joined our students as well. So it was lovely to have them, the grade 7 and 8s from there. But it really is a big part of our strong commitment to encouraging and enabling student voice, just like the Rainbow Conference. We want to hear from the students. We want to hear, what are we doing well? What can we do better? Like, what is your experience? We want to hear about the student experience, and we want to understand how we can do better in our schools. So they are very willing and able to give us great feedback on things that we need to consider for them to be able to work well within the school.
And if I'm not mistaken, the education process that goes on in these events, it's a very holistic process and holistic transfer of knowledge from elders or knowledge keepers to the students, because there's much more than just the practical skill of fire making. There's a whole other dimension that surrounds that, as well as every one of those other activities. It's not just doing something, it's learning the context of what you're doing in relation to creation and all those other values.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. And even on a day-to-day basis, we do have elders in many of our schools who do transfer that knowledge. And one of the feedback items that we got from students, they want to see that continue. They want to see our language classes that we do offer in a couple of our schools continue, cultural knowledge and teachings. In fact, they would like to see stronger connections with elders. We do bring them in, but they want stronger ones. We also have already in our system Indigenous graduation coaches. So they feel the students have said those have been really, really beneficial. And so all those cultural teachings and knowledge, we also offer many, many Native Studies courses in our board, and we have been for a lot of years as well. So very specific to Native understanding and teachings, and that has been very well received.
And non-Indigenous students have access to some of those courses as well, I take it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, because we've heard that too. It's important to also educate non-Indigenous people so that they have an understanding of the history and culture and what has happened. And still to this day, so many folks talk about, well, I didn't know anything about residential schools, for example, or the 60s scoop. Like, we weren't taught that in school at all. I sure wasn't. So it's good learning for the children as they progress through the grades, and then they will become more educated and hopefully educate more people out there.
Or even be aware that we are on Treaty 45, the lens of Treaty 45 and a half, which was the first treaty. There's a whole bunch more, but to know that treaty history, because it is part of our history as well.
Yes, we've also this year had 2 full-day workshops with our principals out at the Outdoor Ed Center. And Randall Coggy came and talked all about treaties on the very first day. very thoroughly to talk exactly what you're saying. And it's just so amazing how we've progressed and from what happened back in the day to where we are now. And we're still learning. Many of us are still learning.
Yes. Never ends. But isn't that true education? True education, not when we graduated, we keeps on going. Keeps on going. But you also had a Black student forum as well. I mean, I don't mean to, but this is another change because now the Black population has been a part of Grey Bruce since before it was Grey Bruce. And, what was this first Black student forum about?
And this one was actually our first. We have not done this one before. So this was held at Grey Highlands Secondary School. And we had approximately 75 students from all of our secondary schools attend this one. We did have a guest speaker at that, Orlando Bowen. And Orlando is part of One Voice, One Team. And he encouraged the students to just think about their impact on the lives of others and how they could become difference makers. So similarly to our Indigenous student forum, we asked questions like, what are we doing well to support your learning? What can we do better? And just to give us some suggestions on what they want to see continue, kind of that stop, start, continue in their classrooms. So again, there were breakout sessions offered by Orlando and his team as well for discussions on different topics. For example, dealing with subtle racism, which we know exists in Grey and Bruce County, handling racial slurs, and other pertinent conversations around their lived experience. So students were sharing their thinking and feelings throughout the day, and we want that to continue. And they said the same, like they were so appreciative. Thank you for this opportunity. Let this continue. Make sure that we're being heard. I think it's the message that was said too. We want to be heard and understood.
And indeed, the whole history of racism it's there.
Yes.
It's there. If we don't talk about it, we don't acknowledge it, we don't correct it. Can I use that term?
Yes.
Move forward from where we were to something new. I think it's absolutely essential. I did happen to meet, not very recently, a graduate of one of the Bluewater schools who is Black. And, I think that he's done extremely well. Second year university, looking forward, full of life, one of those really nice success stories. But I know he had challenges. So that's all we can do is provide the framework and let the students have at it.
Well, and let's just remove those challenges and obstacles. There shouldn't be any in their education journey. There just should not be. And we are seeing that there is. So we all need to do better.
Absolutely. Now, I also have seen or heard that Bluewater did quite nicely at the Skills Ontario.
It's I love that our students are so capable and willing to go and put themselves out there. So there are different competitions, but we did have students who progressed on to the provincial skills challenge competition or Ontario competition. It was held at the Toronto Congress Centre. So even that's a very large center. So they went and were recognized, and we did bring home some medals in home and team building. So there's a team from OSDSS that were there and they won a medal. And we also got medals in carpentry, another team from OSDSS, and CNC woodworking. And that was a student from Saugeen District Senior School. Heavy equipment service, also Saugeen District Senior School. And lastly, workplace safety. And that was a student from Grey Highlands Secondary School. So all of our secondary schools were well represented, and just kudos to the teachers of those students who prepare them for these challenges and for the students engaging in it. Over the years, I've had a chance to go, we have our local competition to see who gets to go to these competitions. And it is just wonderful to see them all. And the ones that I've mentioned now aren't all the ones that are represented locally. Like we also have hairdressing and cooking competitions, which are all part of the skilled trades. So this is just a bit of the few that made it to the provincials. So great success.
And, I think we also have to give a shout out to the teachers that are behind these programs, because they're the ones that take, dare I say it, the raw material and motivate and teach and help these young people learn and blossom.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the teachers' enthusiasm and their instruction and their patience just to prepare students for this opportunity. It's because there's a lot involved with the students being able to do this, because I think the tasks that they're given at the provincial level are very specific. So the teachers would have to prepare the students for that specific task so they could demonstrate their skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It also strikes me about the students that are excelling in all kinds of other areas in the board with our science fair and athletics, speeches. There's so many areas that students, when they find their talent or what they're really interested in, have the opportunity to shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you get a charge out of watching these young people do these great things, Jane? I mean,
oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And, again, I'm struck by, all of our student forums, how different everyone is. Not everyone is skilled at the trades. Not everyone is skilled in sciences. Not everyone is skilled in public speaking or sports. So the opportunity for all students to find a pathway, to find a place that they belong, is so important, and so it's a very big task. I mean, we have a lot of students, so a lot of different individuals in there.
Well, let's kick things up to a very, very high level. Now, and this is probably, well, you're both probably involved in this, the multi-year strategic plan development. What's that all about?
I can start on that one, but I must say, as I was listening to Lori talk about all of the things, and just as I was speaking about, it's the importance of understanding our whole organization and building a path forward to meet the needs of all of our students. We want them all to thrive and succeed. Our multi-year strategic plan is really a visioning process, a document that sets a direction for our board. It's an obligation for us as a board of trustees through the Ministry of Education, through the Education Act, and it must align with ministry priorities, but we also have an opportunity to put our local stamp on that. So that's the process we're involved with now, and have a survey out, and we're certainly looking for the public's feedback to help us as we work on that in the fall.
And that survey can be found at the Bluewater District School Board website?
Yes.
Yeah. So if people want to have their input into board direction, that's probably a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Sure. Hey, the board website isn't just for bus delays, snow days. I mean, I'll be perfectly candid. That's why I look at it, because I want to make sure. Okay, how bad is it? Well, if the buses aren't running in school or schools are closed, yeah, we got a gray bruise storm. But at the same time, there's a lot more on that website than just that stuff.
It's interesting you bring that up, David, because this morning was a little tricky, just with some of the power outages that had happened across our district with the storm last evening. So some of our schools were without power early in the morning, and then we have to make that decision. What do we do? But thank goodness, all of the power came on before we needed to make that decision to stay open or closed. So it was good, but that was a bit of a storm last night, particularly. I know the Owen Sound area got hit. I don't know, Jane, if you did, but.
No, Owen Sound was worse than certainly my backyard, but it was nasty up here for a little while. We were talking about that just a while back. So.
Well, I had a tree branch fall on my truck, So,
Oh no.
oh yeah, it's okay. The truck's okay. Um,
Okay.
but I was out walking my dog just before we went to air, and it was interesting to see that roads, for example, to Hillcrest are blocked off
Oh,
because of trees being down and
trees,
power
yeah.
lines still being down.
mm-hmm.
So it's we're not out of the woods yet. Sorry about the bad pun, but but we're not because and that just goes to show it's not just snow.
That's right. That's right.
Tornadoes, and they're suggesting that that's what's happened here in Owen Sound. We're no stranger to those kinds of adverse weather conditions at all.
Mm-hmm. I know it makes for an early morning when the texts are coming in. No power here, no power there.
So does the principal make that decision, Lori? That in conjunction with the board?
They make it if really if it was needing to be closed, they would make it in conjunction with the area superintendent, who is also in contact with me generally. So it's yes, but they make it in collaboration.
Yeah. Well, buses are one level, but schools entirely are another.
Well, and the thing that, it's warm, so heat isn't an issue, but what is an issue sometimes are water. If schools are on wells, so water systems, flushing of toilets, if you have no water, you can't flush toilets. So there are other aspects that come when hydro's out. And some of our schools, they might have an inner classroom, for example, that would still be dark. So lighting can still be quite an issue in schools if the power's out.
To be sure. So, hey, check that Bluewater District School Board website, folks. It's more than just
a good website.
Yeah, it's a good website. It's more than just snow days. Well, there's another group of people that we haven't touched on that I'm sure that you would want to celebrate. And that are the community partnerships. And you've got an annual meeting coming up, I understand.
We had a meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. That's an annual meeting that we have with our community partners. And it's an opportunity to look at any space that we might have available in our schools and share that information with our community partners. So if they, if there was a fit for something they were looking at, some space, and the fit was good within a school, then that's a conversation that can happen. It's I think a really interesting opportunity for Grey and Bruce, it's counties and the different partners to come together in one place and hear some of the opportunities and challenges that our childcare partners, our municipality partners are having that may not occur in any other location. But certainly those conversations happen with our planning departments all year long, but that is an opportunity that we get together. But we are celebrating community volunteers at our next board meeting. So that is an opportunity to highlight some of the people that give so generously of their times in our schools.
What are some of the opportunities that people have for volunteering in the education system?
Well, Breakfast Club, I would say, is a big one. We have a lot of volunteers that support that, including one of our trustees, Tracy Atkinson, is very intimately involved in that program down in the Hanover area. So that's one way. We do have a program down in the Walked Way called Grand Pals, where they come in and they support reading with students. So that can be another way to volunteer. I know our school council members are considered volunteers, so they do a lot of, or our home and school association members, they do a lot of fundraising for playground equipment, for example, and sometimes they support different trips perhaps that are going. So there are different ways for people who are interested. I would just suggest, if there is interest, call the principal and see if there's a way that they could support.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that there are opportunities for volunteering, and like you say, the breakfast program is one, but reading programs are another. Mm-hmm. In another board, I happen to know of someone who had whose second language was English, but they were fluent in other languages, and they actually became I want to say a tutor, but that's not quite what they were. They became a school friend to new immigrant children, kids who had just arrived in Canada. And it didn't take long. It didn't take long, but they were able to help them catch on to English and make friends and help the school understand what these children's needs were. So there's lots of that was in another board, but there's lots of opportunities for volunteerism if anyone is interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you've just described is wonderful. How wonderful that would be for those children who probably don't speak English and are coming here feeling, very unsure of things, and to have somebody there that can welcome them that way. That's lovely.
Yeah. So lots of possibilities. We've got about 4 minutes left. So I wanted to ask you, what are you doing this summer?
That's a good question. Do you want to start?
Well, I have no big plans.
Before you do, we got to have a chorus of Alice Cooper.
Oh.
I was just going to say, though, we have a lot of graduations coming up in the next little while. So we're celebrating a lot of students who are adult students and our regular students that are graduating and moving on to new opportunities. So that's exciting. We have that in the next week, lots of people. But the summer is quiet for me. We're homebodies, so we enjoy our to stay where everybody else gets to come and have their holidays for a couple of weeks. We just get to stay and enjoy it. So that's my plan.
And it's so funny. I thought originally my summer too was going to be fairly quiet, and then all of a sudden it gets filled with baby showers and birthday gatherings on weekends and things like that. So I think it'll be different social opportunities as well. I just like to get out and enjoy the outdoors with my running, biking, and swimming, doing some triathlons. I'm very interested. So.
Yeah, that's another side to you, Lori, that people don't know about. You are quite the athlete and have been for many years. You do triathlons and so on. So yes, it's we've been cooped up all winter. Let's get out and enjoy the glorious nature of Grey Bruce.
Absolutely. I took a bike ride just the other evening out through Annan and out towards Balaclava, and I stopped. I thought, it is so beautiful here. We just live in a beautiful part of the country, that's for sure. So fortunate.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, we are out of time. And you're not the last of the season, but we will come back next season and have further conversation. Lori Wilder, Jane Thomson, always a pleasure to have you here and to talk about Board of Education happenings. And hey, let's have a round of Alice Cooper. Friends, thank you. Good to have you here today. Thank you for joining me. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.